Members of the latest brigade to deploy on Op Herrick have been speaking of their desire to equip the Afghan security forces to run their country for themselves. 4th Mechanized Brigade, the Black Rats, will take over in Helmand in a matter of weeks. To help them in their role, the government has announced it's buying another 25 Foxhound light patrol vehicles. Julie Knox was on Salisbury Plain as the brigade showcased its capability for the media.
£30 million more will be spent on a further 25 of these. The Army wants Foxhound in its core fleet for the future, and it's already in action in Helmand and Kabul.
I think it's very important for the Army. These vehicles will give them manoeuvrability and access to areas which larger vehicles just can't reach. They don't damage the infrastructure, they give vast levels of blast protection. I think the Army, well, I know they like it, it drives very well indeed, and I think it'll be very welcome to have further vehicles.
As the Black Rats gear up to go, theirs will be a tour with one eye on the forward push and the other on the government's timetable for the drawdown of men and materiel. 6,500 will begin, but 500 troops will be returned to the UK halfway through at Christmas. One member of the brigade last deployed as a Marine. Now he's a newly commissioned officer.
I hope that it gives me that confidence in my own abilities, that personal backing that I can deal with the situations that we might find ourselves in. And on the flip side, I hope it gives me some credibility to the men that I now lead, that they know that I've been there before.
You want to go back because you want to see how it's progressed. You know, first I wanted to go out because the rest of the unit was going out and that was your job. You never want to be left behind. So, but it'll be good to go out there and see how it's progressed and see how things changed and see if they really have improved.
Now Ross will be a member of the all-arms search team, clearing routes of IEDs so patrols or convoys can get through.
I'm quite excited, quite proud to do it as well, because you know it's a sense of responsibility for yourself and a real sense of, well, it'll be achievement once we've actually done it and cleared it.
Yeah, and that people rely on you and you can really do something to make a difference.
Well, yeah, you're keeping the rest of your unit safe, the rest of the Warthog group.
This is my first tour. I'm going to be based in Lashkar with the PMAG, so I'm going out with RDG. Hopefully I'll be sort of aiding and mentoring as well as operating the radios, so it'll be a good experience.
But the PMAG, Police Mentoring and Advisory Group, has become a notoriously risky role after recent green-on-blue killings. Everyone admits that threat can never be eliminated, but the key to mitigating it, says the new leader of the Police Training Centre, is a close relationship.
I think as long as our soldiers have the mutual respect for their culture and the way they've been brought up and the way they run things, and vice versa, it assists in mitigating the possibility of blue on green, green on blue and what have you.
But of course there's trepidation for those deploying.
The worst is my 4-year-old daughter. She'll hold on to me when I leave for work in the morning. Dad, you're not going today, are you? I think she's just holding it for her pocket money, but she'll be the hardest hit, and saying goodbye to her will probably hit me hardest as well.
The brigadier who'll take charge of Task Force Helmand spoke to me about what he sees are his 3 main challenges, the first of which is working with the Afghans.
It is, of course, their counterinsurgency, it's their country, and they must win it themselves, and our job will be to support them to enable them to do so. So that's the first and the most important of the challenges. Next, as the Afghan security forces grow in capacity and capability, and as they and the Afghan people grow in confidence, we need to reduce our profile, ultimately to send some manpower and kit and equipment back to the UK home base. We will do that during our tour, and I am planning to return 500 troops to the UK by the end of the year. The third of the challenges is that recognising that our 6-month tour will form part of a long-term ISAF campaign plan, we will need to think beyond our tenure and ensure we set our successors up to achieve what they need to do in their tour.
Let me bring you back to some of those things that you've mentioned. I mean, it's only a matter of weeks ago that I was out on an Afghan local police-led operation. Yeah. We were on a patrol, we rummaged through some known insurgent bed-down locations. To be frank, the people leading the patrol didn't really do an awful lot. At the Shura halfway round, they told the military who we were with, now this was in a fully transitioned area, they told them, we've learnt that some new IEDs were laid in our area just last week. To which the Brits replied, great, your intelligence is working, now what are you going to do about it? And the Afghans replied, you're going to come and do something about it, aren't you? Those Brits had to return the next day and try and deal with those IEDs, and in fact one of them did partially detonate and caused an injury. So how do you deal with these people and tell them you do have to take it on for yourselves, it is your counterinsurgency now?
Well, it's a process of development, and if we look at the benchmark, if we look at the baseline where we were a few years ago, we could see that they couldn't even have begun to plan such an operation. So now they can plan, they have the appetite to lead, and they go out. Now, is it flawless and perfect? No, it won't be flawless and perfect when we leave, but that's not the point. But bit by bit, they will develop their own processes and their own confidence so that gradually we will be able to reduce our profile.
Obviously something our audience of serving personnel and their families is quite concerned about, I guess, is the green on blue risk.
They do the training, they know the amount of work that we've put into developing cultural understanding, cultural awareness, so that we can avoid inadvertently inflaming situations that can lead to this insider threat materialising itself with an attack. Also, I've spoken to all of my Afghan counterparts. I know them all well. I've worked with some of them before. We've trained with many of them here in the UK, and I've hosted some in my own house. And I've urged them to move beyond acknowledging the problem and to work proactively with their own people to reduce the risk of this happening. Funny enough, it's also always been a junior member of the Afghan security forces with less than 3 years service. The institution is healthy. The longer they stay in it, the more stable they become and the more committed to their own country they become.
Finally, I know that you've been before. You mentioned that you're fortunate that your brigade is deploying at this particular time. Why do you say that?
Well, the first thing I would like to do is to pay tribute to those who've gone before us. I mean, we will benefit from huge efforts and the most tremendous achievements of task forces that have gone before us. But we're going at a time when 2 of the southern districts for which we're responsible, Nadali and Lashkar, will be firmly in this process of transition. Transition with a capital T, the process of doing it. And we will be in a position to nurture and develop this so that by the end we will, I'm absolutely convinced, be able to see this a sense of pride in Afghans, a sense of self-reliance, a sense of confidence. That is what winning a counterinsurgency campaign is absolutely all about.
Brigadier, we wish you well on your deployment.
Thank you, Julie.